Number 1. Voices in the dark. I still can't believe I'm typing this. I don't even know if anyone will believe me, but I have to get it out. A few months ago, my 2 closest friends, Liam and Ethan, and I decided to get away from everything for a few days. We found this cabin deep in the woods, miles from civilization. No cell service, no neighbors, just endless trees and silence. We thought it would be perfect to disconnect, relax and forget about the world. When we arrived, an old man, the caretaker, handed us a list of rules. Most of them were normal stuff. No fires left unattended. Don't trash the place. Keep the noise down after dark. But one rule stood out. It was written in shaky handwriting and felt like a warning. If you hear a knock on the door after 11 p.m., under no circumstances do you open it. Underneath, it said, 1 knock means stay silent and still. 2 knocks mean hide immediately. Don't answer if you hear voices calling your name. Do not make a sound. We all laughed it off, thinking it was just some local superstition, maybe a way to keep renters spooked. But when the clock hit exactly 11:03 p.m., the first knock came. Knock, right on the cabin door. The silence afterward was suffocating. My heart pounded so loud I swore the others could hear it. We forced ourselves to breathe slowly, trying to act normal. But then, knock, again, louder this time, more urgent. Liam, being the curious idiot he is, crept over to the window. I begged him not to, but he did it anyway. When he pulled back the curtain, his face went completely white. He didn't say a word, just backed away slowly and collapsed onto the floor. Outside, there was a woman, but not a woman, something wrong. Her skin was ghostly white, almost glowing with an unnatural light. Her hair hung entangled, wet strands, like black ropes soaked in darkness. Her eyes were the worst. Deep, endless black voids that seemed to swallow all light and hope. They didn't blink. They just stared. Her hands pressed against the glass, nails jagged and broken, scratching slowly across the wooden frame. Then, she knocked again, hard enough to make the glass rattle. Knock! It was like the sound of a war drum in my ears. Ethan grabbed the biggest knife he could find in the kitchen. We all scrambled back to the bedroom, hearts hammering in our chests. Then, our phones buzzed simultaneously. A message from the caretaker's number. You broke the first rule. She's coming for you now. Stay silent. The light blinds her, but only for a second. Don't look into her eyes. She will see your soul and your worst fears. Before we could process the message, the temperature in the room dropped. The air grew heavy, thick with something wrong. Then I heard it. A voice, barely above a whisper, right behind me. Eddie, come out. I'm lonely. I spun around. Nothing but shadows. Then, crash. The back door slammed open with a force that shook the entire cabin. The windows rattled violently, like they were about to shatter. Her voice was everywhere now, whispering, calling, taunting. Where are you? Come out and play. I could feel my skin crawling. My breath came out in short, ragged gasps. We ran, stumbling up the narrow stairs to the attic. The only place the message said was safe. The attic was cramped, filled with old trunks and forgotten memories. In the furthest corner sat a calico cat. Its eyes glowed an unnatural green, piercing through the shadows. It didn't move or blink, but somehow it felt protective, like a guardian in this nightmare. The knocking didn't stop. It bounced off the walls, the ceiling, the floor, and the whispering, God, the whispering never stopped, calling our names, dragging us to the edge of panic. Suddenly, from the floor below, I heard heavy thump sounds. Something was moving slowly, deliberately, getting closer. Another thump. Closer. I held my breath, praying the floor wouldn't give way. The cat's eyes stayed locked on the attic door. Minutes stretched into hours. The sun seemed like a distant memory. Then, just as my mind was about to snap, dawn cracked through the attic window. The knocking stopped. The whispers faded. The heavy footsteps vanished. We didn't wait a second longer. We bolted down the stairs, grabbed our things, and ran without looking back. Back home, curiosity gnawed at me. I searched everything I could online about the cabin. The caretaker had been dead for over 10 years, murdered by his wife right in that cabin. She vanished afterward, never found. Locals whispered about her spirit haunting the woods, angry and vengeful. The texts, the voice, the knocking, it wasn't the caretaker sending those messages. It was her. And that cat? Some say it's a guardian spirit, a protector for those caught in her nightmare. Even now, late at night, when everything is still and quiet, I still hear it in my head. Knock. And I swear, if I ever hear it again, I won't be able to stay silent. Number 2. Patient in the dark. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to be haunted by a place. I grew up surrounded by woods, thick, sprawling forests that felt like an endless playground during the day. The woods behind my childhood home were my refuge. I knew every tree, every path, every hidden clearing where the sunlight filtered through the leaves just right. I never felt afraid there. The woods were alive with birdsong, the rustle of squirrels, the whisper of the wind through branches. They were comforting, safe, a place to lose yourself and find peace. But the woods behind my best friend's house? Those woods are something else entirely. There's no daylight comfort in them at all. They feel suffocating, like a dark pulse beneath the soil. I don't know what changed, or maybe I changed, but every time I go there after dark, it's like the forest itself is watching me, waiting for something. It's a feeling that claws at you from the inside, a pressure that squeezes your chest and makes your skin crawl. When I stayed at her house a few months ago, I was forced to face those woods head-on. Their bathroom was broken, so they set up a porta-potty outside, just on the edge of the treeline. On paper, it sounded fine just a few steps away, but at night, it felt like stepping into a nightmare. The air out there was colder, heavier. The silence was deafening, thick with something unseen. I carried my phone with the flashlight on, and I blasted a video at full volume, hoping to keep the dread at bay. But no noise could drown out what was waiting in those trees. Then I heard it, scratching, slow, deliberate, and right against the porta-potty door. It wasn't frantic or chaotic like an animal trapped or scared. It was patient, like something was testing the metal, waiting for me to break. I froze, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. I told myself it was just the dog, asleep inside the house. But I knew better. The animals in these woods run from humans. They don't come close when someone is inside. The scratching grew louder, nails scraping down the metal with a sound that echoed in the night. Then came the laughter. Soft at first, like a child giggling, except there was no joy in it. It was cruel, twisted, a sound that settled into your bones and refused to leave. I stood frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe properly. The laughter turned into whispering, so faint I almost didn't catch it. And then it called my name. Eddie? The voice was like ice against my neck, a breath I could almost feel, cold and terrifying. I ripped open the porta-potty door and ran inside, slamming it shut behind me. There was no one there, no footsteps in the dirt, no shadows moving in the trees, just silence. But the silence was worse, pressed into me, heavy and suffocating. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't sleep for many nights after that. Every night, the scratching returned, the laughter, the whispering. One night, I looked out the window and saw a figure standing just beyond the tree line, tall and impossibly thin, like a shadow stretched too far. It didn't move or blink. It just watched me with empty, hollow eyes. When I blinked, it was gone. Another night, the scratching wasn't at the porta-potty but at my bedroom window. I looked out, and hundreds of eyes stared back at me from the darkness. Green and yellow, unblinking and unyielding. They weren't animals. They weren't human. They were something else. Something waiting. I stopped sleeping altogether. When I did manage to fall asleep, nightmares dragged me under like drowning in black water. Dreams where the woods reached out with gnarled roots like hands, pulling me down into the cold earth. Dreams where voices whispered my darkest secrets and fears until I couldn't think. One nightmare trapped me in a pit of rotting leaves and mud, the stench of decay choking me as cold, bony hands tightened around my throat. The whispers promised release if I stopped struggling. I woke up gasping, covered in sweat. I tried telling my friend, but she brushed it off, said I was imagining things, that it was just the wind or animals. But I know what I hear. I know what I see. The laughter that echoes when the house is silent. The eyes that stare from the dark, never blinking, never looking away. The cold breath against my skin when no one is there. Something is wrong in those woods. Something alive. Something hungry. Something waiting for me. Sometimes, late at night, I hear the scratching at my window. Slow, patient, like it knows I'm inside. And then the whispering. My name, breathed just outside my door, soft and cruel. I don't want to go back. I don't want to stay over. I don't even want to drive past that street after dark. Because those woods aren't just trees and dirt. They're alive with something ancient and terrible. something that wants me, and I don't think I can ever escape. Number 3. The things that watched me. I've never been able to fully explain what happened to me as a kid. Even now, years later, the memories still haunt me, and sometimes I wake up drenched in sweat from nightmares I can't escape. It started when my family moved into this old house on the outskirts of town. I was 8 years old, and we were excited for a fresh start, a new place to call home. But from the moment we stepped inside, something felt wrong. Not the usual creaks or drafts you expect from an old house, but a deeper, heavier presence. It was like the house itself was breathing, watching, waiting. The strangest, most unsettling part was the tiny closet tucked beneath the staircase leading down to the basement. The basement was where my 2 younger siblings and I slept, and the stairs loomed above us like some dark, silent sentinel. That closet was different. It was small, cramped, and always felt cold, ice cold. Even on the hottest days, we never went near it. It was like a black void, an empty wound in the house that sucked all light and warmth into its depths. My siblings and I made a silent pact to stay away from it. We didn't need to say it aloud. The fear was too real. At first, the strange things were subtle, almost dismissible. Lights flickering on when we had just switched them off. Doors creaking open by themselves. The faintest whispers drifting through the air when the house was silent. Nothing that made us scream, just enough to make your skin crawl and your heart skip a beat. But then the nights started getting worse. I remember lying in the basement one night, the darkness so thick it felt like a physical weight pressing down on me. I was frozen, unable to move or even breathe properly, because I could feel eyes on me, thousands of invisible eyes watching from the shadows of that closet. I wanted to scream, but my voice was stuck deep inside my throat. The air grew colder, and the silence stretched on, broken only by the faint creaking of the house settling around me. There was one night I'll never forget. I was terrified to be alone, so I snuck upstairs to sleep in my mom's bed. I lay there wide awake, staring at the ceiling, until around 2 in the morning when something changed. The music box on my mom's dresser, silent for years, suddenly began to play. But it wasn't the sweet, gentle melody I remembered. It was slow, warped, like a broken lullaby played underwater. The notes twisted and distorted, filling the room with an eerie, unsettling tune. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure my mom would wake up. But when I shook her, the music stopped abruptly, like it was never there. My breath caught in my throat, and I stayed awake for the rest of the night, too scared to close my eyes. After that night, my siblings and I refused to sleep in the basement. We piled on the couch upstairs, huddling together for safety, but the house never felt safe. That closet beneath the stairs was a constant presence, like a dark wound in the house's heart, pulsing with something malevolent. On the last night before we moved out, my sister and I decided to confront our fear. We crept down the stairs, hearts pounding, and peered around the corner toward that tiny closet door. Just as we looked inside, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang, echoing through the house. A scream, deep, guttural, and not ours, ripped through the silence. We didn't hesitate. We ran upstairs in tears, pushing past each other to escape. When we told our parents, they dismissed it as our imagination or the house settling. Years later, I learned that the original owner of the house was an old man who died there alone. No one ever said exactly how, but neighbors whispered about strange noises and sightings long after he was gone. I think the house never let him leave. Sometimes, even now, when I'm alone late at night, I hear that twisted lullaby from the music box echoing in the dark. Sometimes, I feel cold fingers brush my skin, just like when I was a child. The house's shadow still reaches for me, reminding me that some doors, once opened, never close.